contest scene and went on to capture the World Athletic Association Heavyweight and IBA Super Heavyweight Championships. Toughman Heavyweight Champion with a record of 56-5 with 36 knockouts. Butterbean's boxing record was 77 wins, 10 losses, and 4 draws, and today we present to you the best knockouts by Butterbean. Butterbean vs. Springer. Butterbean already had 9 wins and 0 losses, and Eric was ready to face his doppelganger, Paul Springer, who looked like Eric, only he looked more like a bodybuilder. For Paul, this fight was over very quickly, after 47 seconds. His body was knocked out and unwilling to submit to his master, as Butterbean hit a very hard right, and that was the end of it.
Pushing tactics that Paul Springer's using. You know, like most in their debut, Paul Springer can probably give it, but can he take it?
Butterbean vs. Monaco. 2 weeks after his last fight with Pat Jackson, Eric decided to test the strength of Luis Monaco, who was in his second fight as a pro and had no losses so far. Eric immediately lunged at Luis and sent him to the canvas.
He will race across the ring and attempt to get Monaco down quickly, and by golly.
A couple of seconds later, Butterbean threw his series of punches again, and Luis landed a second time on the ground. And at the end of the round, Butterbean decided it was time to end the fight and landed his favorite punch, after which this fight was stopped and Monaco took a very long time to recover from such a hard punch.
The fight, and good night with that. And all along, we didn't see any combinations.
Butterbean vs. Baker. Judging by James's mood, he wanted to upset the audience who loved Butterbean and always warmly supported him. But in reality, James wasn't so terrible. He had a record of 1 win and 5 losses, so he didn't stand much of a chance. Unfortunately, Baker had enough for one exchange and 18 seconds into the fight with Butterbean, after which he fell and didn't even try to get up.
For the wild, free, swinging brawl. That's what he feels the fans like to see. He is all over his opponent, James Baker, and has him down in the first round. Baker, by the way, 1-5, has been knocked out in the first.
Butterbean vs. Eaton 2. In March 1998, Butterbean needed to wrap up one case that had ended in the first draw of his career 6 months earlier. By then, Eric was already the IBA heavyweight champion and a 4-round king with a record of 37 wins with 1 draw and 1 loss. Round 1, and Bealey is showering the champ with punches, who, as usual, is charged with 1 punch to put the feisty Cowboys' lights out. So the start of the encounter is won by Billy, who wastes a lot of energy and dances around Eric. In the second round, Bealey missed a punch that sent him into a knockdown, but quickly got up and continued the fight. In the third segment, Butterbean stood at the ropes, Muhammad Ali style, and provoked Billy to work and then decide to erase his opponent's memory thanks to a deep knockout that Butterbean was aiming for. Billy couldn't survive the third leg of the encounter, and Butterbean knocked him out, all desire to take the championship title that rightfully belongs to Eric. This was win 38 for Eric, with 28 of them coming by way of knockout.
On a basketball court, it's a fake.
Butterbean is a good finisher. Once he gets you hurt, he really lets it all hang out. That's why people like to watch him.
Power indeed, and a certain...
Butterbean vs. Lindberger. In 2000, Butterbean had to face one of his toughest opponents and defend his championship title. His challenger was George Lindberger, named the Terminator, who, unlike Eric's past opponents, also liked to send people to the hospital. 17 people he had knocked out before that fight and would not be a lie. Butterbean had no trouble getting close, and he sent the Terminator to the knockout with a precise hit, taking only 19 seconds, and it was a victory over George, who was already 53. But credit must be given to the Terminator, who, after 5 years, was able to beat Butterbean by way of the judges' scorecards.
Classy, and he was in trouble already. So the first punch,
Well, that jab on him there, that right to the bite, the left hook that let it flush on the jaw.
oh, that was a very wicked punch, and he shouldn't protest at all. He could have been seriously damaged if he continued against Butterbean
There
tonight.
it is again. No legs underneath. His head bangs against the canvas. He's out.
Butterbean versus Pollard. 1998. Eric's opponent is Tim Pollard, a boxer from Kentucky with a record of 6 wins, 4 losses, and 2 draws. His strengths were labeled as an aggressive and fearless boxer, but his weakness outweighed those pluses as Tim had a glass chin. Tim gets off to a good start with the jab. Despite Tim having a smaller arm span, his jab was very effective and kept Eric from shortening the distance. Butterbean did get to his opponent though, and in the middle of round 1, Eric ends the fight. Butterbean versus Graham. February 1999, and the fight for the IBA title held by Butterbean, his rival, Canadian boxer Patrick Graham, with a record of 5 wins, 3 losses, and 1 draw. The start of the 3rd round was shocking for Patrick. At least his face was just that. Butterbean hit it like he knows how, and that was the final punch of this fight.
Watch the body punch. One, two. Left hook to the top. Right crushing to the body.
Yeah,
And
the referee was merciful.
Just like that.
Butterbean versus Talon. 1999, Eric's opponent is Kevin Talon, a 35-year-old boxer with a record of 5 wins and 3 losses. In the 3rd round, Eric missed a couple of good jabs and decided it was time to finish, and imposed another exchange of punches on Kevin at the ropes, in which the chances of a tired Kevin were slim. The outcome of the meeting is another Butterbean victory.
Butterbean, of course, is going to be on the push here. Be the aggressive. The right hand there's the big punch. He follows it with a left hook. So instead of 1 punch, 2 land. That does the job. We'll take one more look at it. He picks the right punch. He throws the uppercut. He's got a man who's leaning forward, who's covered up. He brings the uppercut up, and then he goes up top. And then he moves his head a little bit to try to make the punches, which he did. Make the punches, the return punches miss. The right hand over top really did the damage in this fight. And that's what was the finisher right there.
Butterbean versus Rode. The year 2000, and Eric's opponent was Marcus Rode, who, unlike his previous opponents, was much more experienced and dangerous for Butterbean, as his record was 24 wins and 16 losses. At that, all of his wins were by knockout, so he had something to offer to Eric. In round 3, Marcus starts to have stamina problems, and Eric decides to take advantage of this, finishing his opponent with a minute to go, and this was win number 60 for him, with only 1 loss and 2 draws.
And it started with the body shot with the right hand. And in the 3rd round, it was the body shot. He had hit him a couple good ones. And, you know, you were right, Scott. Why would Rhodes stand in front of the knee?
Just to get in there and take his shots, I guess.
In all 3 rounds combined, Butterbean landed only 16 punches. 15 were power shots.
Butterbean versus McNeely. And at the end, we will remember Eric's fight with probably the toughest opponent of his boxing career. It was Peter McNeely, the boxer who first fought Mike Tyson after that man was released from prison. He lost to him via disqualification because his corner ran out into the ring during the fight and didn't want to leave. Particularly memorable was the battle of looks before the fight, which is forever embedded in all of Iron Mike's highlights. Before the fight with Eric, McNeely's record was 45 wins and 4 losses. He ended most of his fights by knockout, so it was a real test for Butterbean. The fight begins and both fighters are charged with knocking out their opponents, and the bout is mostly a close to mid-range exchange. After a hot start, the pace drops a bit, but the fans are chanting Butterbean and chasing down Eric for the head of McNeely.
Fighting for 300 pounds, and we had some words about this. I think he really thinks he's a real fighter. He fights good 4-round fights.
And Butterbean, of course, wants the brawl, the straight fight he wants.
The round ends and Eric shoots Peter against the ropes. The referee stops the fight and awards the victory to Butterbean, with Peter not even trying to object or challenge the early stoppage.
And that's it. Shane 80 steps in and stops the fight just before the bell. It's over in the first round.
If I said sacrificial lamb, when the first time he really hurts McNeely, he throws a nice overhand right, misses, comes back with a hook. The hook had a lot of weight into the double hook. The second one is the one that you could see actually made the eyes roll on McNeely. In the end of the fight, it was just a matter of McNeely not doing anything and Butterbean firing. There's a nice uppercut on the inside, a right hook around McNeely's gloves, smart move. And McNeely winds up with his back up against the ropes and just gets uppercutted to death practically. That's the third one. A hook, another hook, another right hand, and McNeely offers up nothing. The referee just says that's enough.
That's what you call overwhelmed.
After this fight, Eric got a little overwhelmed with emotion and belief in himself as he wanted to fight Tyson, saying that Mike was avoiding him as he was afraid of his powerful punch. This was probably the only known instance where Eric went a little over the top. Otherwise, he was a